Adizwa had been away for many years, living in another country and working hard as a nurse. When Christmas came, she decided to go back home to Nigeria with her little son Toby. She missed her family and wanted to feel that warm love again. But when she arrived, things were not the same. Her siblings welcomed her with forced smiles, and her mother barely looked happy to see her. Everyone seemed busy showing off their new cars, designer clothes, and expensive gifts. Adizwa felt out of place, like she didn't belong anymore. At the Christmas gathering, laughter filled the air, but none of it was meant for her. Her brothers and sisters bragged about their achievements, and her mother proudly praised each of them. When it was Adizwa's turn, silence followed. Her mother only said, "You brought us no gifts, Adizwa," with disappointment in her voice. Those words stung deeply. No one knew how many long nights she had spent working double shifts to raise her son after her husband abandoned them. She had struggled alone, saving every penny, but her hard work was invisible to her own family. Adizwa tried to smile, though her heart ached. Her little boy noticed the sadness in her eyes. After dinner, he gently tugged her hand and whispered, "Mama, don't cry. I brought something." Before she could ask what he meant, he ran to his grandmother and called everyone's attention. The family turned to watch as the small boy handed an envelope to his grandma. "This is for you," he said proudly. Inside was a document, a house deed. The crowd went silent as they read it. It was for their old ancestral home, the one everyone had wanted but couldn't afford. Adizwa stood quietly as the truth sank in. The daughter they had mocked was the one who had brought the biggest gift of all. Her mother's face softened. Tears filled her eyes as she reached out to hold Adizwa. One by one, the family came closer, their pride melting into shame and love. Toby hugged his mother tightly and whispered, "Now they know your heart, Mama." That Christmas night, warmth returned to the house, not from gifts or decorations, but from the love of a daughter who never stopped caring, even when her family forgot her worth. The living room sparkled with laughter and noise as Adizwa's siblings showed off their expensive gifts. One sister talked loudly about her new car, another flaunted her designer bag, and her brother bragged about his big promotion. Their mother's eyes shone with pride as she admired everything they brought home. Adizwa sat quietly in the corner, her hands resting on her lap, watching them with a soft smile that hid the ache inside her chest. She had brought nothing fancy, no shining gift bags or big boxes. All she had was her small suitcase and her son, Toby, sitting close beside her. Every word from her siblings felt like a reminder of how different her life had become. They spoke of luxury, of vacations abroad, and of business deals, while she thought of long hospital shifts, tired nights, and the little hands that held hers when life felt too heavy. She didn't envy them, but she couldn't help feeling invisible. Nobody asked how she had been, or what it was like raising a child alone in another country. They were too busy comparing achievements, each trying to prove they were doing better than the other. Her mother looked at the shiny gifts and smiled proudly. When her eyes landed on Adizwa, the warmth faded. "You didn't bring anything this year?" she asked, half joking, half judging. The question pierced through her heart. She wanted to explain that every coin she earned went into saving for her son's future, but she stayed silent. It was easier that way, to swallow the hurt and pretend it didn't matter. Toby glanced at her, sensing her pain. He tugged her sleeve and whispered softly, "Mama, don't worry." His little voice was the only comfort in that crowded room. As laughter and music filled the air, Adizwa watched her family dance and pose for pictures, their happiness glowing brighter than the Christmas lights. Yet inside her a quiet strength grew. She knew her worth wasn't in gold or clothes. What they didn't know was that she had been planning something far bigger, something that would change everything. For now, she stayed quiet, letting them celebrate their moment. But deep down, she carried a secret gift, one that would soon make every proud smile turn into tears of realization, that Adizwa's life abroad was nothing like the dream she once had. Every day began before sunrise and ended long after midnight. She worked as a nurse in a busy hospital, caring for patients with a tired smile while hiding her own pain. Her body often ached, her eyes stung from lack of sleep, but she kept going because she had no one else to depend on. Her husband had walked out years ago, leaving her alone with their baby boy, Toby. That night, when she realized he was never coming back, she cried quietly, then wiped her tears and promised herself that her son would never suffer because of it. Each paycheck went toward rent, bills, and Toby's school fees. Sometimes, there wasn't enough money left for herself, but she never complained. On her days off, while others rested or went shopping, she worked extra shifts. Her co-workers admired her strength, but didn't know the full story behind her tired eyes. She missed family gatherings, birthdays, and holidays. Still, she sent money home, hoping her mother would see how hard she tried. But whenever she called, the conversations were short. They asked about money, never about her heart. It was like she had become useful only when they needed something. At night, after Toby fell asleep, Adizwa often sat by the window, watching the city lights. She wondered if her family back home ever thought of her, if they remembered the daughter who once dreamed of becoming a doctor, but gave up everything to survive. She longed to be seen, not as a failure or a forgotten child, but as someone who fought quietly and gave her all. Toby grew up watching his mother work through pain, and he understood more than she realized. He knew the sacrifices she made, skipping meals so he could have enough, smiling through exhaustion just to make him feel safe. "One day, Mama," he would say, "everyone will know how strong you are." Those words kept her going when life got too hard. Adizwa's struggles were unseen by many, but she carried them with silent pride. She wasn't rich, but she was brave. And deep down she knew that someday, all her hidden pain would turn into something beautiful, something her family would never forget. During Christmas dinner, the table was filled with delicious food, laughter, and cheerful voices. Everyone seemed happy, passing dishes and sharing stories. Adizwa sat quietly beside her son, smiling softly as her siblings took turns talking about their successes. Her mother's face glowed with pride as she praised each of them. She told one daughter how proud she was of her new business, laughed as her son spoke about his new car, and even thanked another for bringing expensive gifts. Every word felt like a bright light shining on them, until the light dimmed when it reached Adizwa. Her mother looked at her and gave a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You brought us no gifts, Adizwa," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The words cut through the noise, turning laughter into silence. Adizwa froze, her hand gripping her fork tightly. She wanted to explain that she had been saving every penny to buy something special for her family, something meaningful, but the words refused to come out. Her throat felt tight, her heart heavy. She looked down at her plate, pretending not to care, but her eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. Her siblings shifted uncomfortably, but none of them spoke up. They simply continued eating, avoiding her gaze. Her son, little Toby, looked up at her, confused and hurt. He didn't understand why his grandmother said that. To him, his mother was the most hardworking and kind person in the world. He had seen her wake up before dawn, rush to the hospital, come home tired but still cook for him and help him with homework. He knew how much she sacrificed, even when no one else did. As the dinner went on, laughter returned, but Adizwa felt invisible, as if she didn't belong at that table anymore. Every sound around her faded, replaced by the echo of her mother's words. Yet inside her heart something shifted, not anger but quiet strength. She looked at her son's small face and forced a smile. Toby gently squeezed her hand, whispering softly, "Don't cry, Mama." That little voice was all she needed to remember that love didn't need to be wrapped in shiny paper or expensive boxes. Her time would come. And when it did, everyone at that table would finally see who she truly was. As the noise of laughter filled the room, Adizwa tried to hold back her tears. Her mother's words still echoed in her heart, making her feel small and unwanted. She kept her eyes on her plate, pretending to eat while her mind drifted far away. Beside her, little Toby watched her silently. He noticed the way she smiled even when she was hurting, the way her eyes turned glassy but she blinked fast to hide it. He didn't like seeing her sad. Not tonight, not on Christmas. He leaned closer and tugged her sleeve gently. In a soft whisper only she could hear, he said, "Mama, don't cry. I brought something." She looked at him, surprised, and tried to smile. "What do you mean, my love?" she asked quietly. But Toby just shook his head and grinned, that innocent smile that reminded her of all the reasons she kept going. He looked so sure, so full of purpose, as if he carried a secret too big for his small hands. Her heart warmed for the first time that evening. She wiped her eyes and whispered back, "All right, my little man. Whatever it is, I trust you." As the night went on, Toby's excitement grew. He kept glancing at the small brown envelope in his bag, the one his mother had given him days before, asking him to keep safe. She had told him it was something special for Grandma, but he didn't really understand what it was. He just knew it meant something important to his mother. Watching everyone boast and laugh while his mother stayed quiet made him want to show them what real love looked like. He waited patiently for the right moment, holding his secret tightly. Every time his grandmother's laughter got louder, he looked at his mother and whispered, "Soon, Mama." His small voice carried a comfort she desperately needed. Adizwa didn't know what her son planned to do, but seeing his courage made her pain ease. For years, she had carried her struggles alone, but now in this moment, her little boy stood beside her like a tiny shield. She didn't know it yet, but that whisper, so gentle and full of love, was about to change everything, turning their quiet pain into a moment the whole family would never forget. The laughter in the living room grew louder as the family finished their Christmas meal. Everyone was busy talking and showing off their expensive presents, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Little Toby suddenly stood up from his chair, clutching a small brown envelope in his tiny hands. His voice was soft but steady as he said, "Grandma, I have a gift for you." The room went silent. All eyes turned toward him, confused and curious. His grandmother looked surprised and asked with a smile, "A gift? From you?" Toby nodded proudly and said, "Yes, from me and Mama." Adizwa's heart started to race. She hadn't expected her son to do it this way. She tried to stop him, whispering, "Toby, later, not now." But he shook his head. "No, Mama. It's Christmas. Grandma should get it today." His innocence and determination melted her heart. The family, still unsure of what was happening, gathered closer as Toby walked to his grandmother and handed her the envelope with both hands. His little fingers trembled, but his eyes sparkled with pride. Everyone watched as Grandma opened the envelope slowly. She pulled out a few papers, her eyes scanning the words in confusion. Then her hands began to shake. "What is this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Toby looked at her with a big smile and said, "It's a house, Grandma. Mama bought it for you. The big one you always wanted." Gasps filled the room. Chairs scraped against the floor as everyone stood in shock. Adizwa sat still, her eyes welling up. The room that once felt cold and full of judgment was now silent and warm. Her siblings stared, unable to believe what they were hearing. Their proud looks faded into surprise and guilt. The grandmother covered her mouth, tears rolling down her cheeks. You did this?" she asked. Adizwa nodded shyly. "I just wanted to give you something that lasts, Mama." Toby ran back and hugged his mother tightly as whispers filled the room. The same family who had looked down on her moments ago now stood speechless, realizing that the daughter they ignored had just given them the greatest gift of all. In that moment, every judgment turned into admiration, and every heart in the room finally saw Adizwa for who she truly was. Toby's small hands trembled as he held out the brown envelope to his grandmother. The whole family leaned forward, curious to see what the little boy was doing. His voice was gentle but clear as he said, "Mama bought this for you, Grandma." Everyone froze. Adizwa's heart pounded in her chest. She had never planned for the gift to be revealed this way. Her mother slowly took the envelope, still confused, and opened it with shaky fingers. Inside was a neatly folded document. She read the first few lines, and her expression changed from confusion to disbelief. The paper in her hands was a house deed, proof of ownership. The address written there was familiar to everyone. It was the family's old ancestral home, the one that had been sold years ago when times were hard. The same house her mother always talked about, saying she wished she could buy it back someday. Gasps filled the room. "This can't be real," one of Adizwa's brothers whispered. But it was. Every signature, every stamp, every detail showed that Adizwa had bought it, all by herself. Her mother looked up, her lips trembling. You bought our old home?" she asked, her voice breaking. Adizwa nodded quietly. "Yes, Mama. I wanted to bring it back to you. You always said it was where your happiest memories lived." Tears welled up in her mother's eyes as she clutched the paper to her chest. The same daughter she had just scolded for not bringing gifts had given her something priceless. The return of a home filled with memories. The room was silent, and then a soft sob broke the air. Her siblings looked at each other, guilt flooding their faces. All the pride, all the comparison, melted away in that single moment. Adizwa sat still, her eyes on the floor, unsure of how to react as her mother slowly stood and walked toward her. She pulled her into a trembling hug, crying into her shoulder. "Forgive me, my child," she whispered. Toby beamed proudly as he watched them. "See, Mama? Now Grandma knows." The little boy's innocent words brought more tears to everyone's eyes. What started as a painful Christmas dinner turned into a moment of love, gratitude, and redemption. That small envelope didn't just hold a deed. It carried forgiveness, pride, and the proof of a daughter's unshakable love. Everyone gasped at once. The room went completely silent as the truth sank in. Adizwa, the quiet one they had ignored all evening, had secretly bought the family's old ancestral home. The same house everyone dreamed of but never managed to buy. For years they had all talked about it, wishing to bring it back into the family, but each time it was too expensive. And now, the daughter they once called a failure had done what none of them could. Her mother stood frozen, still holding the house deed, unable to believe her eyes. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "You bought it, you really did?" Adizwa nodded slowly, her eyes filled with emotion. She had worked in silence for years, saving bit by bit, sacrificing comfort just to make that dream come true. Her siblings exchanged stunned glances, shame washing over their faces. The same sister who had mocked her for not bringing gifts now looked down, unable to meet her eyes. Her brother, who had laughed about her simple clothes, suddenly looked small and quiet. The pride that once filled the room faded completely, replaced by realization and guilt. Her mother clutched the papers tightly as tears rolled down her cheeks. "All these years, I thought you forgot us," she said softly. "I thought you didn't care anymore." Adizwa shook her head. "I never stopped caring, Mama. I just wanted to give something that truly mattered, not just something that shines for a day." Her voice was calm, but every word carried the weight of years of struggle, pain, and love. Toby stood beside her, his small hand gripping hers proudly. The little boy's smile lit up the room as he said, "Mama said family should never lose their home." That simple sentence broke everyone's hearts. Her siblings came closer, some with tears in their eyes, whispering apologies. Her mother hugged her tightly, sobbing and saying, "I am proud of you, my daughter." In that moment, the house no longer felt cold. The same family that had once turned their backs on her now looked at her with deep respect. The woman they had called ordinary had done something extraordinary. That Christmas night, Adizwa didn't just bring back an old home. She brought back love, unity, and the true meaning of family. Her mother stood there holding the house papers, her hands trembling and her eyes filled with tears. The noise in the room had vanished. All that could be heard was the sound of her soft sobs. Slowly, she walked toward Adizwa, her face pale with guilt. "My daughter," she whispered, her voice breaking, "forgive me." She couldn't believe that the same child she had scolded, ignored, and made feel unwanted was the one who had worked in silence to give back what the whole family had lost. Adizwa's heart ached watching her mother cry. She quickly stood up and took her hands gently. "Mama, please don't cry," she said softly. "I just wanted to make you happy." Her mother shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "No, Adizwa," she said, her voice trembling. "I am the one who should cry. I was blind. I judged you because you didn't bring shiny gifts, but you brought something greater, love." Her words filled the room with emotion. Her siblings stood quietly, ashamed of their pride. The sister who once mocked her wiped her eyes, whispering, "I'm so sorry." The brother who had laughed at her simple life now lowered his head, unable to speak. One by one, they came to her, each saying words they should have said long ago. Toby watched proudly as his mother was finally seen for who she truly was. He held her hand and smiled, whispering, "See, Mama? Now they know." Adizwa smiled through her tears and kissed his forehead. The warmth in that moment replaced all the years of hurt. Her mother pulled her into a long, tight hug and said, "You were always the light of this family, and I never saw it. You carried us in ways we never understood." The family gathered close, the air now filled with forgiveness instead of comparison. Laughter slowly returned, this time gentle and real. Her mother looked at her with love in her eyes, the kind that had been missing for so long. Adizwa had never asked for praise or recognition, only for acceptance. And that night, she finally got it. The woman once called the unwelcome daughter became the heart of the home again, the one who reminded everyone what family truly meant. The room that once echoed with pride and laughter now felt calm and full of emotion. Tears glistened in everyone's eyes as the truth of Adizwa's love settled deep in their hearts. Her mother still held the house deed close to her chest, as if afraid it might disappear. She looked at her daughter with eyes full of regret and pride, whispering softly, "You brought our home back, and you brought our family back too." Her voice broke, and Adizwa quickly moved to hug her, holding her tightly like a little girl again. The warmth of that hug seemed to melt years of distance and misunderstanding between them. Her siblings slowly gathered around, no longer showing off their wealth or gifts. One by one, they came forward, each with tears in their eyes. "We were wrong, Adizwa," her brother said quietly. "You gave what none of us could." Her sisters nodded, wiping their faces, and hugged her too. For the first time in years, the family felt whole. The arguments, comparisons, and pride that had divided them faded away, replaced by love, forgiveness, and respect. Adizwa stood in the middle of them all, overwhelmed but grateful. Little Toby watched everything with wide eyes and a proud smile. He ran to his mother and wrapped his arms around her waist. The room fell silent again as his tiny voice filled the air. "Now they know your heart, Mama," he whispered softly. His words struck everyone deeply. Adizwa bent down and hugged him tightly, tears falling freely down her cheeks. She kissed his forehead and smiled through her tears, whispering back, "Yes, my son, now they know." Her mother stroked Toby's hair and said, "You have a strong mother, my boy. Never forget that." The boy nodded proudly, and everyone laughed through their tears. The night that began with pain ended with peace. The table was no longer about showing who had more, but about sharing real love and gratitude. As the Christmas lights sparkled softly in the background, Adizwa realized she didn't need anyone's approval anymore. Her love had spoken louder than words. That Christmas became a turning point, not because of gifts or decorations, but because a little boy's voice and a mother's quiet heart reminded everyone what true family really means that High loves. Sparkling Heart, thank you so much for watching till the end. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, thumbs up, share speech balloon, and subscribe bell for more heartwarming stories. See you in the next one. 2 hearts.